welcome back to another sexy episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and handy person.
There we go, Alex Dandino.
Or little oversized Joey Pants over there, my co-host, Alex Dandino.
Quadruple-sized Joey Pants.
All right, before today's exciting episode of the first episode of November, a little bit of business. People, it is official. We're on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. The best way to support the show. The best way to make the show exactly what you want. For as little as $1 a month, you can join the community over there. You get a vote every month on the Patreon exclusive movies. We have a big library over there of awesome flicks. You get a commentary. Our new miniseries, Tales from the Grift, dropping this month if you're a Tales from the Crypt lover. Some of you are new here from the Horror Movie Marathon. That's for yous. If you like us enough and you want to do that tier, you can even get a double feature. You pick and we'll record for you. So we're working real hard to make sure that's worth your time and money. So go on over to patreon.com/FilmAlchemistPod. Thank you so much for those of you who do. Thank you for those of you who are about to as well. The YouTube, subscribe over there, Film Alchemist. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials. Just out there spreading our wings, doing that. Find us there. Make sure you leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Help us defeat the algorithmic cops that are trying to bust up, cock block us. You know, you go help us over there. Guys, I'm loopy. This is my first non-horror movie in a while, so I'm all juiced up. This month, November, Alex and I came up with probably one of our most clever and high-minded themes.
Yeah, we're very high-minded over here. Very highbrow.
Yeah, like your Thanksgiving turkey, this month the pod gets stuffed. Erotic thriller month. So this is going to be a fun and sexy month full of thrills and sexy. Have I said sexy like 6 times? If you're drinking, you're dead. But yeah, so we decided we would start with a movie that we both really love, Bound, right? So Bound is Joey Pants, Jennifer Tilly, Gina Gershon in a kind of sexual crime caper. So
written
Alex,
and directed by the Wachowskis.
The Wachowskis, that's right. Alex, opening thoughts on Bound.
Man, I saw Bound in college. That was definitely I feel like Bound is one of those movies that we all saw in college because we had seen The Matrix. The Matrix was one of all of our first experiences at the theaters. We were like, holy shit. Something shifted underneath us. The ground has changed. And we're like, what else have the Wachowskis done? And we all found this movie Bound and we're like, oh, cool. Jennifer Tilly and Gina Gershon, for those of us who have super weird mind, especially at that point. Let's see, that was in the 2000s, so I think by that time Seed of Chucky had come out, something like that. Everybody kind of knew who Jennifer Tilly was. I actually knew Gina Gershon when I saw this from this dog shit racing movie that Sylvester Stallone made called Driven. Gina Gershon, and again, this is to her credit, Gina Gershon's a chameleon in a lot of ways. She was this sex pot trophy wife in the movie Driven, and then to watch her in Bound just fucking blew my mind and threw me for a loop. And then Joey Pants. But Bound is this really cool noir thriller, and it is sex on a stick, man. There's no way around that. And again, I think of all the movies this month, to be honest with you, this movie does such an amazing job of utilizing it's weird to say this, but utilizing sex as the actual storytelling thread, not the actual action of sex, but just the very sexiness of the movie itself is so prevalent. Everything feels like it's a little sweaty. That's how I'd put it.
This movie's wet. This is a wet ass movie.
A lot of wetness in this movie.
Yeah, this is a wet ass film.
Not only that, this is also an amazing movie of just the pedigree in this film's pretty incredible. Bill Pope was the cinematographer. Bill Pope was the guy who the first guy they hired. I read this today. The first guy they hired left. He's like, I can't make it on this. He had a $6 million budget. He's like, I can't make it. It's too small a budget. And Bill Pope was like, I'm good. I got a bunch of cheap guys.
This movie would be $250,000 today.
Yeah, and Bill Pope, Bill Pope went on to do, like be the DP for like the Raimi Spider-Man movies, and all of the Matrix movies. So again, like it does pay sometimes to be the cheap guy on the cheap guy, even though he really was extremely talented.
Yeah, this movie is definitely the hottest movie of the month. Maybe Body Heat would argue with temperature-wise. But this is a movie, it's just the very first moment we're in that elevator, right, with the sunglasses down, you're like, holy shit, the vibes are powerful, right? And then the movie has this motif where they do this, it's like a Gallagher show, right? Put your tarp on, right? Because every fucking scene is going to drip. Like just comical fucking scenes of like, oh, my pipes burst. And she's like fucking just doing the Indian rug burn on this fucking drippy pipe. It's close up. I believe it's a little slowed down, right? Just like this fucking jerking off motion. They do that shot, I feel like, 10 times in the movie where it's an overly sexualized normal object moment. And it has this effect of there is not a moment in this film where sex is not the kind of, wet ceiling tile above your head. We're waiting for it to burst at any moment.
You're thinking at any moment someone could like just decide to get down. Like it's a very strange thing. Like I think what's interesting too, and I don't know if this is on purpose, and again, this could just be my read on it, but when I'm like, especially like that opener, like the pipe tightening scene, the whole like back and forth dialogue.
I don't even think she has a tool. She's just
she's literally just doing it with her hand, which is incredible. But like the other part of this, and this is like, I don't know, couldn't tell if this was, I watched this scene like 4 times because I was honestly trying to figure out why it sounded this way to me. Because like, I do not think the dialogue in this scene functions on a level of reality, like at all. Granted, it's a noir. So like a lot of the time,
this movie has pornography brain for a lot of it.
Yeah. And like that, I think was the hardest part for like, because I watched that scene, I was like, is Jennifer Tilly like a bad actress? Is Gina Gershon a bad actress? Like, no, both of these guys are doing like turning in an A+ performance. I'm like, but this dialogue,
it's like the way strippers
like
talk
so
to you.
porny.
Yeah. But that,
like, there's a lot. Like you're waiting for people to fuck at the end of the scene.
Oh, for like every fucking moment of every scene, right? Like, and there is this kind of
every scene.
Yeah, I don't know that I would say that it triggered in my mind as a noir, but it definitely has stylized dialogue between those two, right? Like that is not how human beings talk.
Not
Even the first scene where she's just like, I tricked you over here to fucking clean my pipes. You're like, that's every fucking skit
that's a porno.
Parodies a porno. And then she's just like, boom, hand to crotch, and we're off to the races. Right? Like, and then we're for the rest of the movie, we're all kind of Joey Pants just walking into the room like, hey, I thought something was going on.
Not to be that guy, but I will say, like, I know that like the other movies we're watching with have some hotness to it. Like, again, it's a very hot movie. Like,
are you going to fly your freak flag on every episode?
I'm going to fly my freak flag on down and say, like, this is a really sexy movie. Like, it is like, I'm not sure I've seen like sexual chemistry like that, like in a long time between two people.
Yeah, my friend showed me this when we were younger. Used to be my manager at the movie theater. This is their favorite movie, right? And it's one of those movies that you kind of you're almost like mad at it when you're at a certain age, because I assumed that being an adult was just constantly traipsing in and out of sexually thick situations. And you're just like, no, that's not how it goes. Like when someone comes to fix my pipes, it's never like bother.
To quote Patton Oswalt, I think like when we were younger, we always thought we would just be walking through like a fog bank of twatness for our entire lives.
Dude, I remember every time I got dropped off in the mall, I was trying to figure out like if Orange Julius had a booth I could throw down in.
Yep.
I like never had sex. It wasn't even like ever on the radar. But you're like, I better be prepared. You're like, I know they have like a shoe trying on room at Kohl's.
It was like seeing movies like this, and then also Mallrats. There was this sense of like, oh shit, the mall could be the place you get down.
Yeah.
Like
I thought everywhere. I thought movie theaters, putt-putts.
Well,
like,
movie theaters was a given.
Cosmic Bowling, that was a big one. Where I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, Cosmic Bowling, definitely. I agree with that. Haunted houses, that's always a popular one.
With the performers?
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, yo.
You go with a girl. The consensus was in middle school of like, you went with a group. the scared girl would grab onto you, and you know,
Wow.
if that was what you were down for, you like grab onto you, and like you'd be their like protector. Even though for me personally, I had the shit scared out of me as well. So like, you know,
Yeah. I mean, that reminds me of an old saying about bringing sand to the beach. You know what I mean? I'm looking for a creepy-ass old performer to jump out of their closet and drag me back in. That's what I'm looking for at a haunted house. No, that's neither here nor there. What the fuck are we talking about? Yeah, so Bound...
Sex?
Essentially, yeah, Gina Gershon plays this kind of ex-convict, we figure out, right? She just slides into this table like the Fonz, right? Is trying to pick up this lady. The other lady,
Fonzie.
yeah, whips up the badge, right? Like, oh, I didn't know you were out. So we're getting these context clues, right? She was a thief, something happened. We find out later she had a partner, but she fucked her, right? So she did 5 years for it. Jennifer Tilly latches onto this.
Fucked her over, by the way, not just fucked her. So.
Well, yes. Yes, both. Right? On both fronts, you know? It was a standing 6'9" of betrayal is what it was.
Yeah.
But
you know, in this universe, you didn't go to jail for that kind of thing. You went
yes.
to jail for like actually stealing things.
Here's a question I'm going to pose you. Did Jennifer Tilly just straight up use Gina Gershon the whole movie?
Man, I was going to ask you the same
latched on
question.
quick.
I was going to ask you the same question, actually, because it feels like that for most of the movie. Something about that has... And maybe, you know what it is? It's after... You just kind of pick up a vibe. That's what it is. Because it is this like strangers on a train thing that starts happening. And you're like, why is this happening so quickly? It's very bizarre. And like the chemistry's there, obviously. But like, then they start talking about trust. And I'm like, I wouldn't trust either of you at this point. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, they do this kind of running thing, right? Where what's the difference between you and me? And Jennifer Tilly's like, well, I'm smart. I know what I am. I think there is a moment, right? Because you're kind of left as the movie progresses, right? There's this kind of subplot that becomes the narrative engine, right? That is this mafia infighting and this suitcase of money, right? 2 point whatever million. What happens is this is laid on top, right? To put them to the test. It becomes this ethical crucible where we're going to find out, right? Even when they make the plan, she's like, it's kind of like flirting. We all get in, we get wet. We get wet and we talk and we make details. Then you find out who's getting fucked. And it's like, whoa, wow, okay. So they're letting us know it's kind of all a trick. There's this moment in the movie you're sitting there and you have to ask yourself, why the fuck does Corky not run? Because for the life of me, these are like two conflated arguments, right? Because Jennifer Tilly continually running to the phone, I think she's desperate for Gina Gershon to get dragged into this. For her and her Caesar to fight and her to run off with the money by herself. Where do you think Jennifer Tilly stands as this begins to unfurl? Because we see her as this masterful back and forth liar,
right,
and mover of people.
I think because she does that, that is like the red flag it sends up to people like us, which is like, oh, she's playing both of them, you know? Like that's like, that to me is like one of those things where, especially because we've watched enough of these kinds of movies, and that, again, it's just because we're that kind of movie viewer, is you assume, especially in a noir type situation, that someone's going to pull one over on somebody. Like, Not only that, like that's like this flim flam isn't the only flim flam going. Like that's like the whole bit almost routinely in noirs.
Flim flams and hip slams. That's this whole movie.
These flim flams and boondoggles certainly will not, pan out, but like, someone's pulling a job on somebody else. Like that's how
there's plenty of getting jobs on other people for sure.
Well, to be fair, you're not wrong there. But like in any decent noir, there's always going to be there's the other one. There's while this was happening, this was also happening. So I think because I'm trained as a movie watcher to assume that, my radars went off immediately about Jennifer Tilly's character. Like I was already assuming like where's the rub, you know?
Yeah.
It is this weird
that too. I do worry that our sexually immature humor is going to derail our scholarly analysis of this month's films.
We're very scholarly here, so definitely
I'm wearing a fucking sweater. How dare you? No, I am sweating a lot like gravy, but it's neither here nor there. I think it's the thing, though, right? It's because I think the other thing the movie's telling us is that Corky doesn't believe her at all. Yeah. And I thought that was one of the fun scenes, right? She goes back. She just was fingering this guy's wife, shakes his hand with the finger blasting hand.
Awesome.
Washes it, and we just watch this gagoosh all over her hand in slow-mo again, like it's the 300. She lifts it up like she's going to smell the fingers. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this is going for it. And she just goes, Corky, what are you doing here? Hey, old Corky, what are you doing here? You know better. And I was like, she fucking knows. So that was the other flip side of that, right? I think Jennifer Tilly is, I have to get out of this situation, right? She has been taught to weaponize her sexuality, to survive her lot in life. Corky is a completely different and more self-destructive kind of a path.
Right.
She knows immediately. The first moment that lady comes to the door with the coffees, I get the sense that Corky can read everyone immediately. That's kind of her gift, right? Is she can read what's going on in the room.
Right.
She knows immediately what's happening. Then immediately knows this guy's mobbed up. Can see the writing on the wall, right? Why does Corky not run? She sits there and listens and waits for Jennifer Tilly to help her out. She even breaks back into the apartment to try to save her. What is happening to Gina Gershon in this moment when she fucking knows? I don't think she believes in fairy book romances like this, right? Why stay?
I mean, I don't know. I didn't think about this that way. I guess that character would stay, in my opinion, because it becomes this is going to sound weird. It becomes part of like a professional hazard. I don't know if that sounds right. Like, I don't know how else to put it though. Like, cause like,
I'm going to need a little bit more.
But like, that's the problem though. Is like logically, it makes no sense. Like, Corky is a character who seems like she's already been through the ringer. But this is actually this is something. This is something that I thought was really fascinating as I watched it today. Is because I also read that every studio except for Joel Silver and like Republic Films passed on the movie or said the only way we'll make this movie is if you make Corky a man.
Yeah.
And the Wachowskis were like, we're not doing that. That makes no sense. It's not how we wrote it. But like when you watch the movie, Corky, like the performance is above and beyond like reproach. Like that's the
performances in this movie are awesome.
That's the movie itself. But like, that's what's interesting about Gina Gershon's performance is she does it like a male character in a noir who's like the patsy, but not the patsy. And I think that's maybe what it is this is like, that's the only way I know how to put it though. Is like, it's not a point of professional pride. Like that's not what it works, but what it is finishing the job.
She's like, I'm a painter. I'm a fucking painter. I get every corner and I peel the tape. No,
right. Like that's the only way I could probably put it. That would make sense.
Yeah. In this day, we didn't really see very many female characters like Gina Gershon in this movie. Just fucking walking around owning it.
Well, this is the only movie of its ilk that explores a homosexual relationship that it's not the key component of the story. Like this is a noir that just happens to have two gay characters in it, but that's like a really important thing for happening in 1996.
Yeah.
This is a movie that just doesn't have, it's a movie that is about gay characters that is not a key component to the story.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess there's a way to read it too, right? Is that Gina Gershon's playing the angles. And that she's also in it for this money, right? I think that's the interesting choice, though, is when she puts the money in the paint bucket and stays. That seems like a very deliberate and planned out thing. She's not trying to just get away with the money anymore.
Right. I mean, that would be... I mean, that's essentially like...
Do you think she caught the feels?
No. Well... Yeah, kind of. I don't know, man.
These are the couple reads, right? Like either she's
such a hard character legit, to read,
or she's just, I don't want to take this shit anymore. I'm not going to put up with guys like this, right? Or like seeing that Jennifer Tilly's character's having to put up with it. Corky's just like, I've had enough. This is where I make my stand.
Right.
For whatever fucking reasons that may happen. I just thought it was a really interesting moment, right? Because if I'm Gina Gershon, I'm just getting the fuck out.
Yeah.
Take that money far away and then tell Jennifer Tilly, like, hey, man, when you're cool, come meet me at Subway Sandwiches, like in 2 days, and we'll run away.
But that's like that mentality of getting the fuck out. That's the mentality of like a true ex-con. Like, I think what makes Corky a more fascinating and interesting character is like she's still a thief. Like, to be an ex-con, you're giving up the life. That's like what you're doing. You know what you're doing when you move into an apartment complex and become a handyman for people
the
who
old
work for
honor
the mob.
amongst thieves defense, eh?
Well, I mean, that's how I'd characterize it, because look, if it really mattered, if it really was a thing where you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to start my life over, you wouldn't be living in an apartment building like littered with people from the mob.
How many times does Joey Pants shoot that
anyway.
gun? In like, I think only Gina Gershon calls the cops. Everyone else is like, it's all right.
Yeah. Everyone's just used to that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Like,
the apartment building
really,
is its own like vortex of craziness.
But that's my thing, is like Corky knows the danger that she's putting herself in, because that's just part of her life. So the moral relativeness of doing this kind of thing is so, like, to us, because we're, normal citizens that don't do things like that. Like, that's what makes this whole situation so bizarre and so film worthy, because it's something that we would never experience ourselves. But like, the moral relativeness of Corky and Violet's plan, but not only that, like Corky's response to Violet herself is something that's like the part that's worth watching and sort of relatable, is like, yeah, like you have a little bit of loyalty. Like, it's the one person that hasn't fucked with you.
I don't know, man, because I think she knows she is fucking with her, dude.
Maybe it's because
there's a devil may care thing, right? Yeah, is that Corky's just maybe
I think that's
just likes getting off on taking stuff, right? Like,
that's the
everything's been taken from me all the time. I have to take whatever I need in this world.
Right.
Maybe that's just the game of the movie. It was an interesting moment that obviously leads to a fun little game throughout. Yeah, I do think that's what I like about this movie, right? The sexiness only carries you so far, right? Like, I remember seeing this as a younger guy and just being like, holy shit. This is like one of the movies you would tell everyone else at school, like, dude, you got to get that fucking movie. Trust me, you got to get your hands on that.
You got to see this movie, man. Yeah. Oh, these girls, like, it's crazy.
Dude, it was like this, and Wild Things was like one of those movies. Like, there were a couple where you're like, oh my God. But this one just felt sexier, right? But that will really only carry you so far. Yeah. What do you make of the once the movie starts to turn into our mafioso story?
I mean, I know the reason for it. Is it weird that I think it gets a little boring? I don't know how else to put it. Like, it's strange.
Really?
Like, it's weird to say this. I like all these planning scenes. Like, those two are so electrifying on screen.
Yeah.
That anytime and look, I'm not saying Joe Pantoliano is not amazing. Like, he's fucking awesome in this movie.
Dude, he brings it in this movie.
Yeah, like, he's fucking fantastic. But, like, I guess he's probably, like, once we get past Joey Pants and, like, with, like, Chris Maloney and a lot of the other characters that show up, like, yeah, it's like Johnny and the other guys. That is the part where I'm like, yeah, I get it. But, like, the planning, the execution, like, the three of them are so good that when we start entertaining other characters, it starts to kind of, like, run the gamut of all these other things for me. Like, it's not bad, but, like, again, we're just, like, I'm sitting there, like, waiting for the next moment I get with those three. Oh,
yeah.
Those two.
It
those
felt
three,
like we did like 6
combination.
scenes in a row of someone's knocking at the door. What am I going to... It's like, all right, like, I get it. There is something to this kind of pairing the mafia movie, right? Mm-hmm. These fucking big dick swinging types that always have to, like, fucking draw these lines in the sand. And them just completely overlooking these two lady characters to their own demise eventually. That I thought was a really cool juxtaposition, right? Like, the first time they're beating the shit out of Sally, and Gina Gershon's just listening to that in the other room, right? The thin walls. I thought that worked really well, right? The setup of, we'll make him think Johnny did it and this and that. That was pretty clever. I do think it devolves a little bit at the end where they keep trying to get suspense out of the same beat. And I'm with you. The moments to me, right? Like when he's like, oh, pretend you're fucking sucking me off in the shower. Oh, wait. Like I was like, all right, that's whatever, right? The moments, though, when she sneaks in to make the phone calls, that is real fucking tension. Like that is real scary tension because now we're getting out of the Ocean's 11 style fucking carnival ride ruse. And we're getting into like, oh my God, he's going to fucking kill his wife.
Yeah.
Right? So that shit worked really well. Why the fuck is Violet making these phone calls? I read it nefarious. What did you make of this?
Also nefarious. I don't know how, like, that was like.
She knows that you can hear the phone ring next door.
Yeah. Like, and again, this goes to like what we're thinking the entire movie, which is like, Violet knows what's up. Yeah. Not only Violet knows what's up, Violet has her own fucking set of priorities and set of plans. Like that's again like the crazy thing about this movie is it just makes you think everyone's got one over the other. Like that I think is the constant struggle watching this movie in a good way is that every character feels like they have their own MO to a point where like there is no one in cahoots with each other. They all just sort of we're all just watching these plans sort of careen into each other to see which one's gonna like suss out. Yeah, and we want Corky's too because Corky's had a rough life.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. I feel it's so fucking weird to make the phone calls, and even to make the phone call where she isn't like 100% sure where the fuck he is, right? And he just walks in and finds her. Yeah. Okay, right, and then as soon as he catches them, right, because Corky running to unlock the door and try to save her. I thought that was a wild choice. That's a wild moment in the movie. He's not going to kill his wife if he thinks she knows where the money is, right? We've already established that.
Right.
Why not wait in that apartment and get the fucking jump on him with the giant wrench like we do 20 minutes later? The fact that she runs over hints at some other fucking thing driving Corky. And I think that's the thing that I kept wanting to figure out in the movie. And I don't know where I settled, if it was just a fuck you or like actually had feels. I think the ending in the truck, right? What's the difference between you and me? I don't know. Me either. I think Corky's letting us know that she knows this game is still afoot. And that it always will be as long as these two ladies are entwined by this money. Right? So her running into that apartment after Joey Pants has already fucking clobbered his wife, gets the jump on her, right? She gets fucking knocked out by him like 5 times.
That's not great.
It's gets hard to watch where he's just fucking like clocking her. And she's still doing the, fucking shoot me or, lick me, like fuck off. Great, that's cool. And then like once we get to the finger chopping, it's really ramping up. I guess I don't know, right? Because it feels like Violet's working an angle. But Corky knows that, so why keep running into this? Why set the boots and the money in the fucking bathroom and wait for a jump? Just run. What anchors Corky to that apartment? It's the burning question of the movie to me. And that to me makes the second act into the third a little more interesting. Because it's a character specifically acting in direct opposition to how we are told they behave.
Well, by that rationale, I think the only way to explain it would be, she caught feels. Like, that's it. Like, that's the only... Because here's the other thing, too, and this is, like... The message in this movie that starts to creep in towards the end is like, love makes you do crazy things. I'm not saying it's love necessarily, but there's, like, a level of infatuation that happens with these characters that's what you have to latch onto.
Yeah.
To carry you through, to do yourself justice as a viewer, to ignore the fact that they're just flying in the face of logic on every level for who their characters are, you have to assume that what's going on is these two are madly in love. Or just, like, mad together. That's it.
Yeah, I know, because Violet lays out her goal, right? I need to start a new life. I can't do it on my own. Help me do this ruse, right? When she calls, and Corky's just letting the fucking phone ring like a rube, right? Like she's fucking Affleck in Argo or some shit. And she answers it, and it's just like, I would never betray you or whatever. I know. That's why I'm still here. And I was like, maybe it is just that someone did this to me and, something like that. But I thought that added a little extra intrigue as we're just running around fucking up Joey Pants. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I point something out here? Like, just, I want to say something like not cinematography only, but like, there's something about like the scene where Joey Pants starts shooting Chris Maloney, and I'm like, the way that they shoot that gun, like the way they film him actually shooting the gun is like something. It's weird because like obviously you see it now, but like so after he shoots, is it Gino, the older guy with the hat on?
Yeah,
is that Gino? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
dude, well, there's that creepy scene where like it's really close on the eyes, like, yeah, give me the gun, and he just closes his eyes in close up, like, well, I'm gonna fucking do this.
Yeah. It's weird, too, because, like, it's odd that I can't tell the difference between a lot of Italian guys' names, but I literally was like, which one's Gino? Which one's Johnny? I know he's Caesar, but who the fuck are the rest of these guys?
They fall into naming patterns, yeah.
That shot of him shooting Gino, and it's not slow motion, but where he, like, falls backwards, and the camera goes with him.
It's
so
almost
cool.
like the guy falling in Psycho down the stairs. The detective.
Yeah,
Well, there's a dreamlike, right? The reality that we have been watching in this movie is shattered in that moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but I love moments where there's gun violence, right? That cuts away from the actual gun and bullet and just goes right in on people's reaction to what they're doing.
It's much better that way.
So I thought the way they shot that was really brilliant.
So he shoots Gino, and then it's this awesome, it's like the precursor to the bullet cam. Mm-hmm. Where they move the camera around just the gun. Like, it stays focused on the gun. Like, again, what I love watching in this movie, and obviously the movie itself is great, but what I really enjoy is seeing the Wachowskis, like, it's the proto-Wachowskis that we all grew up with. Because this is like an amazing calling card movie to get you to whatever the next step is. Yeah. And the next step for them was the fucking Matrix. Yeah. And you're just watching this movie and you're like, wow. Like, all these little DNA imprints from this movie are definitely in the Matrix. But a lot of it is, it's not even just like cinematography, but a lot of it is like the ability that the Wachowskis had to bury the lead in a lot of ways. It's a really fascinating way that they tell this story, and I think it's a really fascinating way that they get there.
Yeah, I mean, The Matrix at its very core, right, is a movie about deciding your own narrative, right? Who are you and what world are you a part of? That's what this movie is, right? These are people just staking their, like, I'm going to fucking change my narrative. That's the same vibe, right? And as you can see, further down the Wachowskis' life, that was something that was very important to them, obviously.
Yeah, this movie is about identity for sure.
Yeah, and I it's funny because it is really clever in how they, when she's making the call from the bathroom, right? Like, make the deal now. It has these really clever twists and turns that keep you, paying attention to the movie. But again, the mafia thing feels like something that had to be added. Because what really sells this movie is the fucking sizzle of those two characters on camera. And it's just, it's almost gargantuan how much that pours out of the screen, right? It's oppressive on you physically watching the movies. You're like, oh my God, I need to be sexier in my life. I need more of this shit. And so I think it's an interesting turn that it then goes into this fucking mafia story. How do you feel that the sexiness dictates how we watch the fucking Bullet story?
I mean, it is that weird, like, it's that, like, confluence of sex and violence.
Yeah.
Like, it's, like, a really weird, because there's never a time where it doesn't, there's never a time where something doesn't feel kind of sexy.
Never.
Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, it's weird to say that about, like, scenes where dudes get shot with guns, but there's something, like...
You think that was hot, too?
It's not that, just the prevalence of sex.
It's penetrative?
It's like... No. It's like...
It is. It is. That's science.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, fucking... All right. Thanks, Poindexter. No, like, what it is like, it's this... The only way I can describe it, like, it's the smell of it. like, I don't know how else to describe it, but like it's this experience, and it's the experience and the feeling and the vibe you get from the movie.
Yeah.
And that I think is like, again, it happens in the first 15 minutes and it never goes away. And it has nothing to do with like whatever sexual chemistry they have, like, or whatever sexual acts they do together. It's the chemistry. Sorry. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, it is the chemistry, and like, because they're so electrifying together on screen, you're constantly trying to get back to them. And obviously, like, they have to be in different scenes. Like, they have to, Caesar's got to be, Violet has to be with Caesar. Like, that's the only way the plan works. It can't just be these two running off together. Like, if it was like a chase movie, that'd be kind of fucking lame. Like, that's not what this movie should be. Like,
Right.
Again, if it was just this weird chase movie where like these two are on the run with $2 million, like, we've already done that fucking movie. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
they came up with a
that's
really
not what
clever
this is.
device for that, right? Which is them listening through the walls to each other or touching the wall where they think the other one is. They even have that great shot is Caesar takes Violet outside, and Gershon's watching through the peephole, and Jennifer Tilly turns and like they lock eyes through the door. So I think that first part instructs us how much we want them to be together. And the second half of the movie is all about blocking them apart, right? Even if they're fighting, they're standing on opposite sides of the room, right? When Violet comes in and, Corky's like, are you all right? They're really fucking far apart in that moment. And so the whole rest of that movie is we want that smashing together of these two. And so, yeah, I think that is kind of the wind in the sails of the film. Even because, again, I'm not trying to shit on. It's a really clever, how it plays out with, the fucking mafias and the dead body, right? I thought
absolutely.
It gets to the moment where it's kind of straining, right? Like the cop, like, oh, there's blood dripping down where his fucking dick is. Oh, there's fucking blood under his shoes. Where it's like, all right, you're kind of straining my fucking, suspension of disbelief here. Get on with it. But then, yeah, you get that moment at the end where fucking Violet just tells, Caesar, you don't know shit, and just fucking annihilates him into the white paint. And it's this orgasmic release again. He's literally just laying there in this fucking puddle of dead cum.
It's true.
And it's...
Yikes.
It's well, that's the thing, right? The cum, his life died in the cum, but that fucking gave life to this new romance.
I mean, that is certainly a visual metaphor if I've ever heard one. But again, like...
The life-giving and taking cum at the end.
But that's what the movie... That's what the movie is, man. I mean, we're definitely too childish for this. But either way, that's really like what it boils down to is there's just sex everywhere in this movie. Like, it is a steamy, steamy romp in the hay.
But not only that, it's one of those movies
We're
that
also
says,
being a really good noir.
Yeah, it's you don't have to just do heroic things just because you're in love.
Right, yeah.
But sometimes you're like, that was a good lay. I'm going to be heroic to have another good romp. And I think the older I get, the more I understand that. I feel like I would maybe do something that heroic. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's just this really tight, dense, well-crafted movie, right? The visuals are so strong, and they set up all of this stuff so when it just turns into another, hey, my first movie is a fucking small crime film. Right. There's a lot extra going on in this, right? Even that last scene with those two. We're just watching her lie to Mickey and then come back, and her and Gina Gershon, they're playing sexual flirtation chess. And we don't have to know. It never settles. We just know that it's always going to be this whodunit with these two. Mm-hmm. But that's fine, right? And it's just it's so fucking fun of a movie. And
I think what I like the most is the movie never asks you. This is the thing that noirs do that this movie never does, is it never asks you to solve the crime, because we already know who's committing it. But more importantly, that is not why we're watching this movie. Like, what we're watching is the relationship between two people blossoming, but not only that, like the trust bond forming between these two over always constantly, there's a chance that I might get fucked over. Like, there is this, like, that's like the sexy vibe, is you're like, I'm going to ride or die with this person. However,
every scene someone's getting fucked.
I'm looking over my shoulder.
That's bad.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really steamy good time, guys. That's it for Bound. I hope you guys had as much fun with it as we did. Again, guys, this month, the pod gets stuffed. So more erotic thrillers to come. Next week episode, I don't know if it fits erotic thriller. Definitely a formative erotic movie for guys our age. Cruel Intentions next week.
Thriller,
I have to say,
erotique, yes.
I don't know that I had seen this since theaters when I had to sneak in to watch it. What an absolute bag of fuckery that movie is.
Oh, yeah.
I almost choked to death on my couch watching that movie, so I can't wait to talk about that one.
Utter chaos.
Just pure and utter chaos. Yeah, so, guys, this month the pod gets stuffed. A lot of erotic thrillers. We have some really good stuff over on patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Exclusives, commentaries, double features, mini-series. Guys, we have so much awesome stuff over there. We would appreciate the support. We're making it worth your time, I promise. The YouTube Film Alchemist, the email filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on the socials. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you find the pod. So that's it, guys. Wipe your glasses, take your tarps off for now, but keep them ready for Cruel Intentions next week. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
And I'm Alex Dandino.
Bye.